What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and in this video we are going to be ripping one of the biggest burning trees that I have ever seen. And I think the burning tree is a really good option right now for the late game, in those games where you have a really strong early game, buy a bunch of XP, and then you're looking for a comp to slide into in the end game. And one of the reasons that the comp is so good is because it relies mostly on tier 5 and tier 6 units, just burning trees, ashwood elms, and echo woods, and you've got yourself a comp. So I think that it's really strong for games where you are ahead early, and that's exactly what we're going to look at in this one as Wonder Waddle. Despite trees not really having any built-in synergy with Wonder Waddle, Wonder Waddle is a super strong hero, which generally means that you're going to have really strong early games and the opportunity to buy some XP and want to transition into something in the late game. I buy the Forbidden Fruit there just to give the Wizard's Familiar a little bit more stats, roll for additional copies of Wizard's Familiar and 3 Blind Mice, as those are really good early game units. And my plan for right now, this is important, my plan isn't to force trees from the get-go. My plan is just to play Wonder Waddle, and that's what we're going to do. And Wonder Waddle is just a strong hero. Now, oftentimes on Wonder Waddle, I do tend to skip on all early game treasures because you just find so many treasures that you don't need these early game ones. Jack's Jumping Beans would be good. Book of Heroes would be growing this unicorn, but I'm just going to skip, roll the die here, and then also pick up Polywoggle. And I think that leaves us reasonably strong for this turn, while also allowing us to scale and still have enough econ to roll for more treasures in future turns. And that's kind of the idea here. Maybe now I can pick up some tier 3 animals, try to find Hatball Fork, or something else. Who knows? I do think we're quite strong at this point in the game, despite only playing 4 units, and I think that we won't have too much of a problem here. We are going to get the Polywoggle Sleigh, and that's kind of intentional. That's why I put it in slot 4, to hope that we could maybe combine it and use it for future turns. I think the play here is probably going to be to pick up some animals, the White Stag and the Kitty Cutpurse, and use the White Stag to pump up both of these sleigh units. So that way we might be able to get our sleigh on and have some nice and interesting things happen from here. I think I am going to... Oh, this is interesting. I decided to play the Kitty Cutpurse ahead of the Polywoggle. I think because we're on 3.0, I might like flipping the order of those two things, because then our Polywoggle would have slayed right here, but it looks like Polywoggle is going to slay regardless, and it didn't matter, and now we get a greedy for our next combat, and we've got an extra gold to boot. I'm going to pick up this pair of Polywoggles, probably skipping on this treasure again. I mean, Spinning Wheel is okay, but again, the reason that I generally like to skip is because you just see so many treasures so easily on Wonder Waddle that I don't necessarily think it's worth it. Falling Stars will activate our greedy. It will kill our Kitty Cutpurse, but it will also pump our Wizard's Familiar, so I do think that it is probably worth pursuing. And then we can roll one more time, and I was going to say what we could do is we could sell the Kitty Cutpurse and purchase a tier 3 unit, but we could also just purchase a Kitty Cutpurse. That seems fine to me as well. Runestones is definitely an option for something that we could pick up, though could decide to take the Jack's Jumping Beans now because we are already on 3.1, so things are looking a little bit different for me. I'm thinking I might not be rolling too many tier 3 units. We've skipped on enough treasures up until this point. Though the other option could have been to just skip, pick up the Wizard's Familiar, and then I wouldn't have had to lock this shop in particular. But either way, I think that it is a pretty reasonable play, and we are doing pretty good. Polywoggle, pretty decent odds to slay there. That's pretty nice. That'll give us a tier 3 unit to work with, but we will be losing this combat, unfortunately. So we're going to take 4 damage, our first loss of the game, but we're going to get an upgraded Bearded Vulture, which is absolutely huge, and absolutely huge specifically on Wonder Waddle, because everything else that we're playing is already an animal. So we're definitely going to win this combat. So when I roll into this Wish Upon a Star, 5 gold for 2 XP, that's just too good of a deal to pass up. And I think I've got to go for that one here. I do briefly consider backlining the unicorn because it'll get a nice bonus from the stag, but I do want to run as many of my animals as I can in the front line so that way the vulture is guaranteed to be a little bit bigger. So I do think we're going to see me moving this unicorn to the front and swapping it out with that greedy in the 3rd position. And now we're kind of pivoting. Previously, I was very strongly considering maybe trying to do some hatball shenanigans. That's why I picked up the Wizard's Familiar. Now that we are definitely going to be winning this Wish Upon a Star, let's not count our chickens just yet, but I do feel pretty dang good about our chances to win this Wish Upon a Star. We're also going to get some gold from Kitty Cutpurse, and we're also going to get some gold from Greedy. So we're 3 gold up and 2 XP up on this lobby. Feeling pretty good about my chances to pivot this into a reasonable endgame comp. We could go for the Masquerade Ball here. That would let us see 2 tier 5 units on this turn. However, we're going to be level 5 next turn. So I don't really think there's a huge need to pick up this Masquerade Ball. I think I just like to roll, maybe find some more XP, or find some more Wonder Waddle units while we're still on tier 4. This is basically the last turn that we could make super use of Wonder Waddle's hero power. Once we hit 5.0, it's going to get a little bit dicier, but definitely still possible. I'll pick up Blind Mouse because, well, maybe it'll let us pick up a treasure on the cheap. Honestly, that one was a little bit questionable. But one thing that we do have going for us here is this Cat's Call, which is going to make it pretty impossible for us to lose this combat. Again, I do think that I probably should have skipped picking up the 3 Blind Mouse. That would have potentially allowed us to just sell Tiny here and pick up the Stag, or just purchase this Polywoggle. Next turn we'll be on 5.0, so if we could get like a Polywoggle pair, that would be pretty sweet. Potentially start trying to slay with that. But I think you guys can see at least the concept of skipping all of those tier 2 treasures as Wonder Waddle, and basically just using Wonder Waddle as an econ champion, which I think is also just really powerful. And we're not going to slay with Kitty Cutpurse, but, well, okay, eventually we're going to get a bunch of cats here, and that is going to make it impossible for my opponent to win, and it's also going to protect our prize pig while hitting my opponent for 11. So we are still going to get a few bonus gold going into this turn from Greedy and prize pig. Like I said, Wonder Waddle is an econ champion, and I think here I'm just going to take Cloak of the Assassin. Maybe it'll help Polywoggle slay, maybe it will help the Kitty Cutpurse slay. I'm not super sure, but we'll see what we can do. I'll pick up a pair of Polywoggles and skip, because we're skipping all the tier 2 treasures still, and then I'll keep on rolling. Would love to find a Grimsoul. Feast Dragon is kind of cute, but I think not exactly what we're looking for. Mix-a-Wizzle could be kind of cute, and then we find Blind Mouse, and I guess it actually did work out well for us. We spent 4 gold and got a tier 4 treasure, and Ring of Rage in combination with this slaying cloak, I think is going to give Kitty Cutpurse and Polywoggle the stats that they need to go the distance. Plus, we also have the Stag supporting them in the front. I do think that picking up Tweedledee is potentially an option, just because with Ring of Rage, that is a bunch of stats. But I'm thinking I might just go for this Lightning Bolt, and I'm also just debating if I want to try to work in any more animals to buff up my Vulture. But for the most part, I think that we are still really strong. 16-13 Wizard's Familiar, plus a bunch of sweet slaying stuff in the background. We are going to have a little bit of lag, but we also get a bean on the Stag. Kitty Cutpurse goes down to my opponent's Lightning Bolt, but it does look like Polywoggle is set up very nicely to slay, as long as it gets to attack. And unfortunately, it's not going to attack here. We bring my opponent down to 1. 14-11 Polywoggle just had to sit there, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But we can pick up a Grimsoul now, which I think would probably be pretty useful just in terms of allowing us to make sure that this Polywoggle slays, which potentially gives us another little edge on the rest of the lobby. And again, that edge is going to allow us to purchase more experience potentially. Even though we're almost level 6, I am going to pick up the end here, just a slightly more experience, get us to level 6 next turn, rather than having to wait one more turn, and then I'll start rolling for Burning Trees, Echo Woods, Ashwood Elms. That's the plan. I'm going to cast the end on my 3 blind mice, and then we see even more XP, but we also see a Burning Tree. So I'm going to lock for this one. This is the premier endgame comp at this point, so I definitely want to move into it. Polywoggle is going to turn into a Doom Breath, which isn't that great, but not that bad either. We do have to deal with this doubly from my opponent, and we're able to deal with it as well as my opponent's backline, and we get a little bit of greedy gold as well. So 2 XP up on everybody, including that Morg that just bought some XP this turn. And now I think the plan here is to play this Burning Tree, and from there we will just look for more trees and things. Though Hercules, pretty tempting, and at this stage of the game, Hercules is still quite a large unit, 23, 22 even, and we can potentially put it behind the Stag, so that way we are getting even more additional stats from it, and potentially putting myself in a place where the Hercules can slay or activate in 4 hits instead of in 5. So that's definitely going to be something that I look to do this combat, though it's a little bit tricky. And then I'm also saying, well, do I want more stats on, or do I want to play more animals to make bigger use of this vulture? That's also definitely something to consider just to continue to be strong. But I think this is going to be a strong enough composition here for us. And then I'm going to sell off 2 of my animals to purchase this stone skin and just give us a little bit more stats on the Hercules, but just a little bit more stats overall. Maybe a little health on the Hercules will allow it to be able to survive after it hits something. But the plan here is get Hercules up to 29, and then 29 plus 23 is 52. So you just need some combinations of hitting for 29 and hitting for 23 to actually give yourself a tier 6 treasure. So that's kind of the plan. My opponent is playing a soul tack, but in the wrong position, unfortunately for them. We're going to get 2 hits on Hercules. That is now down to 42. So even better, we can actually, and especially, okay, that would have been great if the Hercules could have got smacked there, but still, that's some really good completion on the Hercules. So now we had 2 hits with Hercules at 29, which now means it only needs 2 hits at 23. And that's kind of the math that we were working with there. And we'll potentially have a new treasure off Hercules next turn. Storm King, not really too big of an improvement. Honestly, though, I think we're enough ahead of this lobby that I'm willing to invest into another Hercules with this Evil Twin and try to grab another tier 6 treasure. There are some really good tier 6 treasures that work with the Burning Tree comp, and yeah, I mean, 8 gold for a tier 6 treasure, not too shabby, and I still think that we've got the time to try to put everything together. So that's what I'm going to go for, and we'll backline this new Hercules in the same way that we backlined the other Hercules last turn in hopes that it can hit for 29 once or twice. Does look like Hercules is going to be activating this combat here from the Vampire. Then my other Hercules will get in for 29 and get some stats on it as well before Burning Tree takes my opponent out. And yeah, now 71 is not quite 23 times 3, right? But we see these treasures, and Singing Sword is a really good treasure for the Burning Tree comp, and we're not really using Cloak of the Assassin at this point in the game either. So I'll put Burning Tree in the front line after picking up that cloak, and then I'm also just considering, well, maybe I want to move Hercules to the front. That way I don't have to rely on the Stag attacking, because 46 times 2 is obviously going to be enough to get Hercules slaying, so or activating, rather. So that's definitely an option that I want to consider too. And then shoulder fairies, kind of nice when you've got two activated Hercules. Shoulder fairies is definitely something that you can consider. I do also consider the Sporko, and we're not really doing too much with the Vulture at this point in the game, but I'd really like to try to find some trees stuff. And at the very least, I think that this Heartwood might be better than playing the Vulture at this point in the game, and we'll get some additional stats on our burning trees while we continue to look for some of those other good endgame units. But this is just going to help us be strong for right now, while we are also using our time to try to find some treasures and things. Doom Breath gets a nice little hit there, but my opponent is pretty big. Hercules now only one hit away, and we will walk out of this one with a victory. But our opponents are going to start to catch up, especially as that Gwen is going to be able to scale against our other opponents. That's definitely going to be someone to keep in mind. So really want Ashwood Elms, really want Burning Trees, and really want Echo Woods. And I consider this Knighthood just to upgrade a Burning Tree. It wouldn't really do that much for us, though. I don't really think that I need a Knighthood right now. Sorry about that camera issue. Let me just make sure that doesn't happen again today. Okay, great. So, where was I? Yeah, I think that it's just better to spend my gold rolling for Ashwood Elms and Echo Woods, because that's really going to be what puts us over the top more than anything else. Genie's Wish is fine. It costs 1 gold. That actually gives us an upgrade for our Hercules, so a pretty silly 1 coin upgrade there, though not necessarily on the unit that I would have loved to have seen it on. Again, Shoulder Fairies is an option. It's a 40-40, and it's decent, but the problem is it's not going to scale anything beyond that, so it's a little bit unimpressive. And we've got the Singing Sword. I think that we are set up really, really well to try to make some trees happen, but we just got to find the trees first. So this opponent has a Sultak in a much better position, though we're going to ignore it. And what we can't ignore is they are taking all the trees from us, though they haven't found Echo Woods or Ashwoods themselves. We would still like to beat them to the punch here and hopefully knock them out of the lobby before they can take any of the trees away from us. I think this is probably going to be a Pandora's box pickup. There are a few good tier 7 treasures that could be good for us. Notably, the best one would be Round Table, followed by Holy Grail, but we'll see what we can find. Pick up an Echo Wood here, though we do still really need to find an Ashwood Elm, and until we do that, we can't really play this Echo Wood in that fantastic of a capacity unless we find Round Table off of this Pandora's box, which is definitely something that I want to at least play to the opportunity of, but I will pick up another Echo Wood here. And even if we don't find the Round Table, we just have to roll really aggressively to start trying to find Ashwood Elms, and that's going to be enough with the Singing Sword, plus whatever other tier 7 treasure we could potentially find. We're going to miss on killing my opponent's Jormungand, which is a little bit awkward, but I do think we'll clear it out here, and then we will just barely walk away from this one with a loss, taking 7 damage. Not the worst thing in the world. And now we get this Pandora's box, and we get Magic Sword, which is really interesting with Burning Tree, because with Singing Sword, we're giving whatever unit is in that first slot plus 200 attack. So you throw it on a Burning Tree, we're also giving it 200 health. We could use it on the Doom Breath instead. Honestly, that is kind of a tricky one, but I think just the overall stats that you get from the Burning Tree are going to be better off for us. Don't really want that Knighthood. I'd much rather just roll for Ashwood Elms or potentially triple one of our units that is almost complete. I'm going to go for a Spinning Gold here just because we might need a little bit of help finishing this one off. Then I run into another Burning Tree. So just going to lock that for the turn, and I'll purchase a Lonely Prince. And the other thing that I do is I try to move Doom Breath into position 2 so that it is more likely to be able to do something of impact here and be relevant. And it's going to take out one Baba Yaga. Not the best thing in the world, but hey, it's something. And then Jormungand trades with our huge Burning Tree, and Herc goes down, and we take 14 damage. So now we're going to activate our Burning Tree, and here is where we get to pick up Mimic Chest, which we don't really need the Singing Sword at this point in the game, but Mimic Chest plus Singing Sword plus Magic Sword is just so many stats. So now we're giving this Burning Tree plus 200 attack from the doubled Singing Sword, and then that's going to be doubled twice from Mimic Singing Sword. Pretty crazy stuff. Any attack that we throw onto it is a bunch of attacks, so you could consider the Hugify, but I think that this is going to be better for us. I am going to Beauty's Influence now the Burning Tree, and I'm thinking that'll actually make Shoulder Fairy live again at this point. And one other thing that is really good, this is kind of a silly one, but one other thing that we could do this game is we could find a Croc. And if we Croc our Burning Tree, one, the Croc is going to have a bunch of attack. The Croc is going to have I think 600 attack. Yeah. Burning Tree's got 600 attack. So the Croc would have 600 attack just to start the combat. Pretty sweet. However, the Croc would also come back, and when it comes back, it would spawn the Burning Tree. That's what I mean by come back. It would spawn a Burning Tree, and that Burning Tree, I believe, would then see the Magic Sword, see the Singing Sword, see the Mimic Chest, and then the Burning Tree would pump the Echo Wood. So Croc is really, really good. Ashwood Elm is now just okay. We really want Croc. That's like the best thing that we could find. We could use like Baby Bear plus our Singing Sword slot. Luckily, we get a Drink Me potion. So that's going to be really good. I don't know exactly why I sold that Lonely Prince there, but oh, that's why. I'm slightly considering the fact that my opponent has a Lightning Dragon and like what could I do to play around that. Unfortunately, I totally missed the Soul Tack in this shop, and right after I rolled past it, I was like, shoot, I should have picked up that Soul Tack. I just wasn't thinking. I was trying to think about the fact that I need Ashwood Elm, and I need the Croc spell, and totally missed that. So that might wind up being bad for us, but we can pick up a Rotten Apple Tree. That could also be cool because it's a way to potentially stop Jormungand. Now, interestingly, this is a mistake that I make here. I wanted my Applewood to have 0 attack so that Applewood wouldn't have to attack, but Applewood does actually need to have some attack. Otherwise, the Jorm will attack into it, turn it into 1 health, slay the tree, and then boost itself right back up. So I should have moved the Heartwood Elder onto the Apple Tree rather than play this 0 attack one, because that's just going to mean that it really isn't doing anything. However, it doesn't wind up being super relevant in this one regardless. Our Burning Tree is huge, but unfortunately so is my opponent's Jormungand, and the Jormungand gets into the 1700s. We're not going to take out that Shadow Assassin regardless because it's ranged, and then Jormungand is going to take out our Burning Tree and take us out as well. So we weren't quite able to put the full comp together. Never found in Ashwood Elm. Maybe I spent too much time rolling and picking up some other units, but this was still a pretty fun one, and I think still a good demonstration of what you can do with Burning Tree in the late game, just being a strong unit. But we're definitely not going to be lacking for Burning Tree games coming up. I have been forcing that comp a little bit more after playing this one, and I've only been getting better at putting together the pieces for that tree comp in the end game. So that's going to be it for this video, but definitely have some more fun ones to showcase. New Storybook Brawl videos every day. But that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.